I heard her laughing inside. Not normal laughter. Flirting laughter. Then a man laughed softly with her. I froze. Something inside me tightened instantly. The door wasn't fully closed. And then I heard Emily's voice clearly. I swear after next month I'm done pretending. Another man responded quietly. You really think he suspects anything? Emily laughed again. Daniel? Please. He still thinks we're struggling together. Every drop of happiness disappeared from my body instantly. I stood there unable to breathe. Completely frozen. The man inside lowered his voice again. And the insurance settlement? Emily answered calmly. Once he signs everything, I leave. Simple. Silence exploded inside my head. Insurance settlement? Leave me? What the hell was she talking about? My heart pounded so violently it physically hurt. Then came the sentence that destroyed whatever remained of my marriage. I spent 12 years babysitting a broke warehouse worker, Emily whispered coldly. I deserve better than this life. I felt physically sick. Not angry yet. Just shattered. Because the woman inside that room didn't sound like my wife anymore. She sounded like a stranger wearing Emily's voice. And suddenly the $50 million ticket hidden inside my pocket no longer felt exciting. It felt dangerous. Very dangerous. Because standing outside that conference room, listening to my wife secretly plan a future without me, I realized something terrifying. Emily thought I was powerless. What she didn't know yet was that the broke husband she planned to abandon had just become one of the richest men in Georgia an hour earlier. I don't remember leaving the office building. That's the strange thing about emotional shock. Your body keeps moving even when your mind completely shuts down. 1 second I stood outside that conference room holding a champagne bottle and a $50 million lottery ticket. And the next thing I knew, I was sitting alone inside my truck parked 3 blocks away while rain blurred the windshield into streaks of light. I just sat there staring forward. Numb. Emily's words kept replaying inside my head over and over again. I deserve better than this life. 12 years together. 12 years of sacrifice. And somehow, somewhere, my wife stopped seeing me as her partner and started seeing me as a burden. That realization hurt more than the cheating itself. Because betrayal usually starts emotionally long before it becomes physical. I stayed parked there nearly an hour trying to understand what I had just heard. The insurance settlement part bothered me most. Emily worked in corporate insurance consulting, so paperwork and legal contracts surrounded her constantly. But the way she said it sounded personal. Planned. Calculated. Like she was waiting for something specific before leaving me. Eventually my phone buzzed. Emily. Her contact photo flashed across the screen. A smiling picture from years earlier during a beach trip in Miami when life still felt simple. I almost laughed seeing it. Funny how photographs freeze people emotionally while real life quietly changes them completely. I answered calmly. Hey, I said. Her voice instantly softened into the version of herself I used to trust. Sorry babe, working late tonight? What? I literally heard her laughing with another man 5 minutes earlier. But I stayed quiet. No problem. You already eat? Not yet. You should. Don't wait up for me. Another lie. I could hear faint office chatter behind her voice. Then she added something that almost destroyed me emotionally. Love you. I closed my eyes slowly. Because suddenly those words sounded rehearsed. Automatic. Empty. I love you too, I replied quietly. The moment the call ended, I slammed my fist against the steering wheel so hard the horn exploded through the parking garage. For the first time that night, anger finally arrived. Real anger. Not because Emily stopped loving me. Because she kept pretending. That's what destroys trust completely, the performance. The fake smiles. The fake concern. The fake marriage. And the entire time I struggled every day trying to hold our life together. She was already planning her exit strategy behind my back. I drove home around midnight while Atlanta glowed wet beneath heavy rain clouds. Luxury condos reflected across puddles downtown while exhausted workers dragged themselves through train stations and traffic lights. Normally those long drives gave me peace. That night every memory felt poisoned. When I finally pulled into our driveway, Emily's car still wasn't home yet. I sat inside the truck quietly staring at our little rental house. The peeling paint. The crooked porch light. The cheap furniture visible through the front window. This was the life I spent years trying to improve for us. And apparently she hated every second of it. Inside the house, silence swallowed everything. I placed the champagne bottle on the kitchen counter beside unpaid bills and pulled the lottery ticket out again carefully. $50 million. The craziest part? Just hours earlier, I would have given every penny away to save my marriage. Now, I wasn't even sure who my wife truly was anymore. Around 1:15 a.m., headlights finally flashed through the front curtains. Emily walked inside moments later carrying designer heels in one hand while typing on her phone with the other. She froze slightly when she saw me awake. "Oh, you're still up." I studied her face carefully. Beautiful. Polished. Perfect makeup despite supposedly working late. And suddenly I noticed things I ignored before. The expensive perfume she never wore around me anymore. The way she smiled while texting someone secretly. The emotional distance hidden behind casual conversation. How long had this been happening? Weeks? Months? Years? "You okay?" she asked casually while hanging her coat. "Yeah. You look tired." I almost laughed. Tired? My entire life collapsed 3 hours earlier. But somehow I stayed calm. "You were at work all night?" That question made her pause for half a second. Tiny hesitation. But enough. "Mostly meetings," she answered quickly. Lie again. I watched her walk toward the kitchen while avoiding eye contact. Then she noticed the champagne bottle. "Oh, what's this for?" For a second I imagined telling her everything immediately. Pulling out the ticket. Watching her face change. Watching regret destroy her in real time. But something stopped me. Instinct maybe. Because suddenly revealing the money felt dangerous. If Emily was already secretly planning to leave me while believing I was broke, what would happen once she discovered $50 million? That thought terrified me more than the betrayal itself. "Warehouse supervisor gave it to me," I lied smoothly. She nodded without caring much. Then her phone buzzed again. And I watched something painful happen. She smiled instantly at the screen. A real smile. The kind I hadn't seen from her in years. That moment told me everything. Someone else was getting the best version of my wife while I lived beside the leftovers. She quickly locked the phone after noticing me watching. "You coming to bed?" "In a minute." Emily disappeared upstairs while I remained alone in the kitchen staring at that lottery ticket again. Then slowly, an idea formed in my head. A dangerous one. What if I didn't tell her? At least not yet. What if I waited? Observed. Learned the truth completely before making any decisions. Because if Emily truly planned to betray me financially somehow, revealing $50 million too early could destroy everything. For the next several days I said nothing. And that silence changed my entire understanding of my marriage. Once you stop trusting someone, you start noticing everything. The secret smiles at her phone. Late night texting. Hidden passwords. Business dinners. Sudden gym memberships. New expensive dresses despite our financial struggles. And worst of all, Emily became kinder toward me. Not colder. Kinder. Almost guilty. That hurt more than fighting ever could. Then one Friday evening while Emily showered upstairs, her phone buzzed repeatedly beside me on the couch. Normally I would never invade someone's privacy. But nothing about our marriage felt normal anymore. The screen lit up with a message preview. From a man named Trevor. "You sure he still doesn't suspect anything?" My stomach dropped instantly. Another message appeared seconds later. "Once the life insurance clears, we're free." Life insurance. Suddenly everything made horrifying sense. And for the first time since winning the lottery, I genuinely became afraid of my own wife. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, Trevor's message replayed inside my head. "Once the life insurance clears, we're free." Free. That word haunted me most. Because people only talk like that when they already see someone as an obstacle instead of a partner. And suddenly I couldn't stop wondering something terrifying. Was Emily simply cheating on me? Or was something far worse happening? At 3 a.m., I sat alone in the kitchen staring at our life insurance documents spread across the table. A year earlier, Emily convinced me to increase the policy dramatically after claiming it was the responsible adult thing to do. At the time it sounded reasonable. We were struggling financially, both exhausted, constantly talking about future security. I trusted her completely back then. Now every signature looked dangerous. The updated policy payout totaled nearly $2.4 million. Enough money to disappear comfortably with someone else. My chest tightened violently thinking about it. No, surely not. Emily could be selfish, maybe even manipulative. But murder? That felt insane. No. Betrayal changes your understanding of people quickly. And once trust dies, paranoia grows in its place. The next morning, Emily acted perfectly normal. That was the scariest part. She stood in our kitchen making coffee while sunlight poured softly through the windows like nothing in the world was wrong. Meanwhile I felt like I was sharing breakfast with a stranger. "You okay?" she asked casually. "Didn't sleep much." "Stress." You have no idea. I nodded quietly while watching her carefully. How many lies had I missed over the years because I loved her too much to question anything? That thought destroyed me internally. Before leaving for work, Emily kissed my cheek gently, and I almost physically pulled away. Not because I hated her, because suddenly affection felt fake, performed, like watching an actress play the role of my wife. The moment she left, I made a decision that changed everything. I called a lawyer. Not a divorce attorney. A private investigator referral service. The woman on the phone listened quietly while I explained pieces of the situation carefully without mentioning the lottery money. Then she gave me one name. Marcus Hale. Former federal investigator turned private intelligence consultant. Expensive, discreet, and according to her, the guy people hire when they need the truth, not comfort. I met Marcus later that afternoon inside a quiet restaurant outside downtown Atlanta. The man looked nothing like I expected. No flashy detective energy. No dramatic personality. Just calm eyes and military posture beneath a dark gray jacket. The kind of man who notices everything immediately. He listened silently while I explained Emily, Trevor, the life insurance policy, and the conference room conversation. When I finished speaking, Marcus stayed quiet several seconds before finally asking, "You think your wife wants you dead?" Hearing someone say it out loud made me physically sick. I don't know. That's not what I asked. I stared down at the table, then answered honestly. I think my wife became someone I no longer recognize. Marcus nodded slowly. That usually means yes. Those words chilled me completely. Over the next 2 weeks, my entire life became a performance. Every morning I pretended to be the same exhausted warehouse worker while secretly living inside a completely different reality. I still went to work, still paid bills, still ate dinner beside Emily, still listened to her complain about stress and office politics while she secretly texted another man under the table. And all the while, $50 million sat hidden inside a secured legal trust account nobody knew existed. Not Emily. Not Trevor. Nobody. Meanwhile, Marcus investigated quietly. And what he discovered destroyed whatever remained of my marriage permanently. Trevor wasn't just some office affair. He was Emily's regional manager. Married once before. Heavy gambling debt. Multiple lawsuits hidden through shell accounts. And according to Marcus, he recently purchased a boat under someone else's name near the Florida coast. Interesting timing for someone planning a new life. But the worst revelation came 3 nights later. Marcus slid photographs across the restaurant table during our next meeting. Emily and Trevor. Hotels. Restaurants. Private weekend trips she claimed were corporate conferences. Months of deception carefully documented through receipts and surveillance. My chest hurt looking at them. Not because she cheated. Because she looked happy. Happier than she'd looked with me in years. That realization crushed something inside me permanently. Then Marcus lowered his voice. There's more. I already felt emotionally numb at that point. What? He handed me another folder. Inside were printed copies of emails, insurance communications, financial discussions, policy modifications, and one specific message from Trevor to Emily highlighted in yellow. Once he signs the expansion paperwork, everything gets easier. Expansion paperwork. Suddenly I remembered something. 3 weeks earlier, Emily pushed aggressively for additional accidental death coverage connected to my warehouse job. She even insisted we meet with a policy representative privately. At the time I thought she was just anxious about money. Now, every conversation felt horrifying in hindsight. You think they planned something? I asked quietly. Marcus leaned back carefully. I think your wife and her boyfriend expected to become rich very soon. Cold fear crawled through my body slowly. Because suddenly every detail mattered differently. Emily encouraging me to work extra warehouse shifts alone at night. The sudden concern about insurance. The fake affection recently. The financial pressure. The secret planning. Maybe it was greed. Maybe manipulation. Or maybe I truly married someone capable of destroying me completely for money. And the most dangerous part? Emily still believed I knew absolutely nothing. That gave me power. Real power. The kind wealthy people pay millions for. Information. So instead of confronting her immediately, I started preparing quietly. I transferred the lottery winnings into protected legal structures through attorneys Marcus recommended. Anonymous trusts. Delayed disclosures. Financial firewalls Emily could never touch even if she discovered the money later. Then I upgraded security around my life carefully without making it obvious. New cameras near the house. Private digital monitoring. Vehicle tracking. Backup legal documentation. Because once paranoia enters your marriage, survival instincts follow fast afterward. But despite everything, part of me still hoped there was another explanation. That maybe Marcus misunderstood something. Maybe Emily planned divorce, not violence. Maybe greed changed her emotionally but not completely. I wanted to believe that. Until the night I overheard her talking on the back patio. I had gone downstairs around midnight for water when I heard her voice softly through the cracked kitchen window. Trevor was on speakerphone. And then Emily said the sentence that erased every remaining doubt forever. Relax. After next Friday, Daniel won't be a problem anymore. Silence swallowed the world around me instantly. Not a misunderstanding. Not paranoia. Not suspicion. My wife genuinely planned something terrible. And standing there barefoot in my own kitchen, listening to the woman I loved discuss me like an inconvenience that needed removing, I realized something terrifying. Winning $50 million didn't save my life. It may have exposed the people trying to destroy it. After hearing Emily say, Daniel won't be a problem anymore, something inside me changed permanently. Fear disappeared. And strangely enough, that scared me more than anything else. Because once someone realizes the person they love might actually destroy them for money, survival instincts take over fast. Emotions stop leading decisions. Logic does. And logic told me one thing very clearly. I could no longer trust my wife with the truth. Not about the lottery. Not about what I knew. Not about anything. So the next morning, I smiled at Emily across the breakfast table like nothing had changed. That was the beginning of the performance. You working late Friday again? She asked while stirring coffee. Probably checking if the plan was still aligned. Most likely, I replied calmly. She nodded casually. Be careful driving home. Rain's supposed to be bad. Interesting choice of words. Be careful. As if concern still existed somewhere beneath the manipulation. Or maybe she simply wanted everything to look normal until whatever they planned finally happened. Marcus thought Friday mattered because of the new insurance documents Emily kept pushing me to sign. According to his investigation, Trevor recently transferred large debts into offshore accounts. Someone expecting money soon usually behaves exactly like that. Fast preparation. Hidden exits. Quiet financial movement. They weren't planning emotionally anymore. They were planning strategically. And unfortunately for them, so was I. Thursday evening, Marcus arrived at my warehouse job disguised as a logistics consultant while we reviewed security footage privately inside a storage office. What's your move? He asked carefully. I stared at the monitors silently. Emily laughing in restaurants. Trevor kissing her outside hotels. The woman I loved transformed into evidence files and surveillance photos. Funny how quickly love starts feeling unreal once betrayal becomes documented. I want proof, I replied quietly. Marcus nodded. We're close. Then he handed me a small recording device. Wear this Friday. I studied it carefully. Tiny. Invisible beneath clothing. Do you really think they'll say something openly? Marcus looked at me for several seconds before answering. Greedy people get careless when they believe they already won. That sentence stayed with me. Because Emily absolutely believed she'd already won. She thought I was tired. Broken. Powerless. Just some warehouse worker too exhausted to notice his marriage collapsing around him. What she didn't know was that I now possessed two things more dangerous than money. The truth. And patience. Friday arrived colder than expected. Heavy storm clouds covered Atlanta all afternoon while warehouse supervisors complained about delayed freight schedules and dangerous road conditions. Around 6 p.m., Emily texted me. Don't forget insurance papers tonight, red heart. Heart emoji. Amazing. I stared at that message for nearly a minute. The same woman secretly planning my destruction still used heart emojis casually. Human beings are terrifying sometimes. Around 8 p.m., Marcus parked outside the warehouse unnoticed while additional investigators monitored Trevor's movements downtown. Everything was ready. All we needed was confirmation. At 9:17 p.m., Emily called me directly. Her voice sounded sweet, gentle, almost affectionate. Hey babe, she said softly. You heading home soon? Probably another hour. Drive safe, okay? Again with the driving comments. Marcus noticed it too immediately beside me. Interesting. Then Emily added something strange. Maybe take the back highway tonight. Less traffic during storms. The back highway. Remote. Poor lighting. Almost empty after midnight. My stomach turned cold instantly. Marcus slowly looked toward me after the call ended. Well, he said quietly. That's not suspicious at all. I wanted to believe we were overreacting. I really did. But 20 minutes later, Trevor's vehicle left downtown Atlanta heading toward that exact highway route. And suddenly denial became impossible. Marcus immediately contacted law enforcement connections privately while I prepared for the longest night of my life. The plan became simple. I would appear to follow routine normally while surveillance teams documented everything. If Trevor attempted anything, it would finally expose the truth completely. At 10:42 p.m., I left the warehouse alone while rain slammed violently across the city. Thunder rolled overhead while headlights blurred through flooded roads and windshield reflections. Every nerve in my body felt alive. I kept thinking about Emily, about our first apartment, our wedding, the years we struggled together believing hardship made love stronger. Maybe that's the cruelest part of betrayal. You don't just lose the person. You lose the future you built around them emotionally. The back highway stretched dark and nearly empty outside the city exactly like Emily suggested. And 5 minutes later, a black SUV appeared behind me. Marcus' voice crackled softly through my hidden earpiece. "That's Trevor." My pulse exploded instantly. The SUV followed too closely. Aggressively. Rain reduced visibility almost completely while headlights flashed through mirrors behind me. Then suddenly, the SUV accelerated. Straight toward my truck. Adrenaline slammed through my body as Trevor's vehicle clipped the rear side violently, sending my tires skidding across soaked pavement. "Oh my God!" Marcus shouted through the earpiece. The truck fishtailed dangerously before crashing sideways into a muddy drainage shoulder near the highway barrier. Everything spun violently. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Then silence. For several seconds I couldn't breathe properly. Rain hammered across broken windows while Trevor's SUV stopped several yards ahead beneath darkness. And then, I watched him step out. Slowly. Calmly. Like a man checking whether a problem finally disappeared. That moment changed everything emotionally. Because until then, part of me still believed Emily's betrayal lived mostly inside fantasy and greed. But seeing Trevor walk toward my crashed vehicle through heavy rain, possibly expecting to find me dead, made the truth horrifyingly real. Marcus' voice exploded through my earpiece. "Stay down. Police are moving now." Trevor approached carefully toward the driver's side while thunder cracked overhead. And then something happened I'll never forget for the rest of my life. His phone rang. "Emily." I could see her name glowing clearly through the rain. Trevor answered immediately. And smiling softly, he said the words that finally destroyed whatever remained of my marriage forever. "Yeah, it's done." The strange thing about surviving betrayal is this. The pain doesn't disappear immediately. Even after the truth comes out. Even after justice arrives. Even after the people who hurt you finally lose everything. Because some wounds aren't financial. They're emotional. And standing there inside that wrecked truck while rain poured through shattered glass, listening to Trevor tell my wife, "It's done," I realized something heartbreaking. Emily truly believed she was about to start a beautiful new life the moment mine ended. That realization stayed with me forever. The next 30 seconds happened fast. Police lights exploded across the highway from both directions while unmarked vehicles surrounded Trevor instantly. The look on his face when armed officers jumped from the darkness was almost surreal. Pure panic. Pure confusion. He stumbled backward in the rain while shouting, "What the hell is this?" Marcus emerged moments later from another vehicle while officers forced Trevor onto the wet pavement beside the highway barrier. And then, Trevor saw me climb out of the truck alive. I'll never forget that expression. Not fear. Like reality itself broke in front of him. "You," he whispered. Rain soaked through my clothes while I stared at him silently. No anger left anymore. Just emptiness. Because at some point during those terrible weeks, I emotionally buried my marriage already. Trevor kept shouting afterward while officers searched his SUV. Claiming innocence. Claiming it was an accident. Claiming everything was misunderstanding. Then they found the messages. The recordings. The insurance documents. And suddenly his confidence disappeared completely. Meanwhile, across the city, another team of investigators arrived at my house. Where Emily still believed her husband had just died. Marcus later told me she initially started crying when officers knocked on the door. Not because she loved me. Because she thought the plan worked. That detail disturbed me more than anything else. Apparently she even asked one officer quietly, "Was it instant?" Imagine hearing that about someone you once planned a future with. Emily was arrested just after midnight. And according to Marcus, the moment officers explained I survived, she completely collapsed emotionally. Not graceful crying. Not dramatic movie tears. Real panic. The kind people experience when consequences finally become real. By sunrise, the entire nightmare exploded publicly. Trevor's company suspended him immediately. News of the criminal investigation spread through corporate circles within hours. Emily's office became chaos overnight once financial fraud investigators entered the picture. Turns out greed makes people sloppy eventually. And sloppy people leave evidence everywhere. The insurance scheme. The affair. The offshore accounts. The surveillance. The recordings. Every ugly secret surfaced at once. But strangely enough, none of it made me feel victorious. I expected rage. Satisfaction. Some emotional revenge fantasy. Instead, I mostly felt exhausted. Because once someone you love becomes capable of destroying you, winning doesn't really feel like winning anymore. 3 weeks later, I officially claimed the lottery publicly through a protected legal trust Marcus helped arrange. The media attention became insane instantly. Warehouse worker wins $50 million jackpot. Every news station in Georgia wanted interviews. Financial experts called constantly. Random relatives suddenly remembered I existed. But the craziest part? Emily learned about the lottery from a television inside county jail. Marcus actually visited her during processing because prosecutors needed timeline confirmation connected to motive. And according to him, the moment she saw my face beside the jackpot headlines, she went completely silent for nearly 2 minutes. Then she whispered something quietly. "What?" Marcus asked her. And Emily looked at the television screen showing my photograph and said, "He was going to surprise me." That sentence hit me harder than anything else. Because despite everything, she finally understood the truth. The night she planned my destruction, I was actually driving to her office intending to change our lives forever. That irony destroyed her emotionally. Months passed afterward while legal proceedings unfolded slowly. Trevor accepted a plea deal eventually once prosecutors uncovered enough evidence connecting him directly to the staged crash attempt. Emily faced conspiracy charges alongside financial fraud investigations tied to manipulated insurance documents. I attended only one court appearance personally, and seeing Emily there almost broke me emotionally again. Not because I still loved her romantically, because she looked human again. No performance, no manipulation, no fake luxury image. Just a tired woman sitting alone realizing greed destroyed everything she once had. When our eyes met across the courtroom, she started crying immediately. Real crying. The painful kind. And for a second, I remembered the younger version of us again. The broke couple eating cheap tacos inside tiny apartments while dreaming about a better future together. That memory hurt most of all. Because somewhere along the way we stopped protecting each other from the world. And started competing against it separately. After the hearing, Emily asked privately if she could speak with me once. Against Marcus' advice. I agreed. We sat alone inside a quiet attorney conference room while rain tapped softly against the windows outside. Funny how rain seemed present during every terrible moment of our story. Emily couldn't even look at me at first. Finally she whispered, "I didn't know about the lottery." I nodded slowly. "I know." Fresh tears rolled down her face instantly. "If I knew." She stopped talking halfway through the sentence. Because we both understood what she almost admitted. If she knew about the money, none of this would have happened. That realization disgusted her. And honestly, it disgusted me too. "You know the worst part?" she whispered brokenly. I stayed quiet. "You still loved me when I betrayed you." That sentence sat heavily between us. Because it was true. Even after hearing the affair. Even after discovering the lies. Part of me still wanted an explanation that saved the woman I married emotionally. But greed changes people slowly. And once someone starts valuing money more than loyalty, they eventually destroy themselves trying to chase both. Emily cried for several minutes before finally asking the question I think haunted her every day afterward. "What were you going to do that night?" I reached into my jacket slowly. Then placed the old faded lottery ticket copy onto the table between us. Emily stared at it silently. $50 million. The future she traded away forever. "I bought champagne first," I said quietly. That completely broke her emotionally. She covered her mouth while sobbing uncontrollably because for the first time, she fully understood the tragedy of everything she destroyed. Not just the money. The marriage. The life we could have had. All because she became so obsessed with escaping struggle that she stopped recognizing the man still fighting beside her. When I finally stood to leave, Emily whispered one final sentence through tears. "I would give every dollar in the world to go back to that moment before I ruined everything." I believed her. But unfortunately, life only moves one direction, forward. A year later, I quietly relocated outside Georgia and started over completely. No flashy mansions. No private jets. No billionaire lifestyle performances online. Just peace. Real peace. I invested carefully, helped my parents retire comfortably, funded scholarship programs quietly through anonymous donations, and built a life nobody could manipulate financially ever again. And sometimes late at night, I still think about that version of myself walking toward Emily's office carrying champagne and a lottery ticket with hope in his chest. He thought $50 million was about to change his life. He had no idea it was actually about to reveal the truth about everyone around him instead. I didn't know about the lottery. I nodded slowly. I know. Fresh tears rolled down her face instantly. If I knew. She stopped talking halfway through the sentence. Because we both understood what she almost admitted. She knew about the money. None of this would have happened. That realization disgusted her. And honestly, it disgusted me too. You know the worst part? She whispered brokenly. I stayed quiet. You still loved me when I betrayed you. That sentence sat heavily between us. Because it was true. Even after hearing the affair. Even after discovering the lies. Part of me still wanted an explanation that saved the woman I married emotionally. But greed changes people slowly. And once someone starts valuing money more than loyalty, they eventually destroy themselves trying to chase both. Emily cried for several minutes before finally asking the question I think haunted her every day afterward. What were you going to do that night? I reached into my jacket slowly. Then placed the old faded lottery ticket copy onto the table between us. Emily stared at it silently. $50 million. The future she traded away forever. I bought champagne first, I said quietly. That completely broke her emotionally. She covered her mouth while sobbing uncontrollably because for the first time, she fully understood the tragedy of everything she destroyed. Not just the money. The marriage. The life we could have had. All because she became so obsessed with escaping struggle that she stopped recognizing the man still fighting beside her. When I finally stood to leave, Emily whispered one final sentence through tears. I would give every dollar in the world to go back to that moment before I ruined everything. I believed her. But unfortunately, life only moves one direction, forward. A year later, I quietly relocated outside Georgia and started over completely. No flashy mansions. No private jets. No billionaire lifestyle performances online. Just peace. Real peace. I invested carefully, helped my parents retire comfortably, funded scholarship programs quietly through anonymous donations, and built a life nobody could manipulate financially ever again. And sometimes late at night, I still think about that version of myself walking toward Emily's office carrying champagne and a lottery ticket with hope in his chest. He thought $50 million was about to change his life. He had no idea it was actually about to reveal the truth about everyone around him instead.